This is a Callaway Paradym AI Smoke Tie 340 mini driver. And while everybody seems to love the idea of mini drivers, a really simple question should be going through your mind. Who needs it? Well, before I can answer the question about exactly who this is for, I have to tell you exactly what this is. The Paradym AI Smoke Tie 340 mini driver is obviously a mini driver. This is 340 cc's in volume, and with most drivers out there being 460 cc's, this is going to obviously be smaller. However, it is designed almost identically from a construction standpoint like the other Paradym AI Smoke drivers that were released back in January. That means we are going to have a titanium construction, including a titanium AI smart face. Now, this face is exactly like the one that's been put into the Paradym AI Smoke drivers, and that means it's going to have, according to Callaway, miniature sweet spots all over the face that were basically designed using supercomputers that studied real golfer swings, not robotic swings in this case, real golfer swing, to try and optimize out the performance. You get a very large carbon fiber crown up here. It's very clear to see. It has a relatively classic look in the address position from a shaping standpoint, although there is a glossy finish over the top of that carbon fiber. On the bottom, you'll notice that we have a couple of movable weights. One of them is going to be 4 grams and the other is going to be 12 grams. By putting the 12-gram weight in the back, you're going to slightly increase the spin and the launch angle. Putting that 12-gram weight in the forward position is going to decrease spin, lower the launch angle, and probably increase a little bit of the ball speed. Again, when that heavier weight is in the back, you're probably going to be boosting a little bit of the stability. This head is available in 2 different versions, 11.5 degrees and 13.5 degrees. So you really have a 2-wood and a 3-wood type version when it comes to loft. The interesting thing is that we're looking from a length standpoint at 43 3/4 length. So the length of this Tie mini driver is going to be just about 2 inches shorter than most people are going to be playing their drivers. Drivers these days being anywhere between 45.5 and 45 3/4, the limit being at 46. So you're chopping off just about 2 inches here, which should make it a little bit easier to control. There's also an adjustable hosel mechanism that comes standard on the Tie 340 mini driver that allows you to increase or decrease the stated loft as well as change the lie angle. And for fitting purposes, that's going to be really handy. Okay, so now we know exactly what we're talking about with the Paradym AI Smoke Tie 340 mini driver. Now we can answer the question, who exactly is this thing going to be for? With the increasing role of analytics in golf, more and more players are coming to realize that they simply don't use their 3-wood when they're attacking long par 5s, when they're hitting into long par 4s, even at the recreational level. Many golfers simply don't use their 3-wood anywhere except off the tee. If you're only going to be using your 3-wood off the tee, then you may as well go with a larger 3-wood, something that is akin to a second driver. And those are the types of players that can probably get the most out of the AI Smoke Tie 340 mini driver. Nobody at Callaway is talking about the performance of this golf club off the deck. At this size, it will be challenging, although it can be done, to use this club from the fairway. This is being looked at exclusively as an off-the-tee alternative. Now, why would you want an off-the-tee alternative? Well, there are times when naturally you're going to want to throttle back just a little bit off the tee where your normal driver shot might bring bunkers or a hazard into play. Going with a slightly smaller head on a slightly shorter shaft will decrease the distance you're going to be hitting the golf ball. In some cases, that is going to work out perfectly. Callaway is really playing up the idea of having predictable, defined distances with this golf club. The other thing that I find to be really interesting, especially amongst the elite players, is that more and more players who are putting a mini driver in their bag are using this as their draw club. You see, some of the biggest hitters oftentimes are the ones who go with that traditional power fade. So they're going to be working the ball, the right-handers, from left to right. Oftentimes when they need to turn the ball over and hit a draw, they will go down to their 3-wood because it's simply that allows them to do that a little bit easier. The added loft makes it easier to turn the ball over for them. By going with a mini driver or some type of a 2-wood, they aren't going to be sacrificing that much distance, but they find it's just a little bit easier to turn the ball in the opposite direction of their natural shot with their driver. So if you are a player out there who has a fade in the bag with your driver and you want to put in an alternative driver that might be a little bit easier to turn over, it might be worth talking to a custom fitter about a mini driver. So having had a chance to hit the Paradym AI Smoke Tie 340 mini driver, boy, isn't that just a mouthful, I find that it feels really fast. It's a little bit longer than a standard 3-wood, obviously shorter than a standard driver, but because the face is so much smaller than a driver, you feel less wind resistance. You feel how much more aerodynamic, even at this size, a 3-wood or a fairway wood is compared with a driver. And because of that, it feels quick. You definitely notice that it is 2 inches shorter than your driver in terms of the quality of the strike. I was able to find the center of the club face more often. It felt like I was making more solid contact. So that was great. How much distance was I giving up compared to my driver? Probably somewhere in the air on the order of about 15 to 17 yards. And that's something that I can live with. If I'm going to be hitting driver well, or if I have plenty of room, I'm going to hit driver just about every time because the forgiveness is so much higher when you're going with 460 cc versus 340 cc. However, I can totally see the logic on tighter fairways going with something that's going to be a little bit more controlled. Having an option that will keep some hazards out of play, but that will get me down the fairway as far as I possibly can. So my gamer setup, my bag is set up with driver, 3-wood, 7-wood. Could I see on certain golf courses putting in a mini driver? Absolutely. I do, however, sometimes use my 3-wood off the deck. If you're somebody who uses Arcos or Shot Scope or different shot tracking mechanisms, different shot tracking systems, go through and take a look at your data. How many times are you hitting over the course of 3 or 4 rounds of golf at the courses where you play most often? How often do you hit 3-wood from the fairway? If it's only once or twice, a very odd occasion, then you might be somebody who could take a look at a mini driver and put it into the bag and probably not give up that versatility. But again, if you look at your shot tracking data, and I've looked at mine, and you find that you are going to rely on your 3-wood from the fairway at least once or twice a round or on a somewhat regular basis, it probably makes sense to stick with, say, a 15-degree or more traditional 3-wood and not necessarily go with a mini driver. I thought that the Ty 340 mini driver sounded good. The feeling at impact was really solid. It is basically exactly what the name implies. It is a miniature driver. And so on that score, I think that Callaway completely hit the mark with this. Look, mini drivers are not for everybody. And so by definition, the Paradym AI Smoke Ty 340 mini driver is not going to be something for everybody. But if you're looking for an alternative to your driver, if you want a controlled distance, if you want a little bit more horsepower than your typical 3-wood is giving you, and maybe if you're looking to try and get a club in your bag that's going to be easier to shape and probably hit a draw, assuming you're right-handed, off the tee rather than trying to hit the high draw with a driver, which can be really challenging for some players, you might want to talk to a good custom fitter about the Paradym AI Smoke Ty 340 mini driver. Look, if you learned a few things from this video, it'd be great if you would like, comment, and subscribe. I do try and answer as many comments as I possibly can. It'd be great to get some comments going. I'm really curious to see if people are as hot and into mini drivers as it seems. Please let me know if this is something that intrigues you, if you want to talk to your custom fitter at home about this club. If you're thinking about putting a mini driver in your bag, I would love to hear why that is. And if you've got one in the bag, I would certainly love to learn about your experiences with mini drivers. I think it's fascinating, really, really interesting category that definitely has some legs and is definitely growing. So thanks a lot for joining me, and I'll look forward to seeing you again real soon.